The great chamber floated in the void between stars. It was built from materials that could survive a supernova and had stood for 10,000 years. Inside, beings from 847 different worlds gathered in a circular arrangement. Some breathed oxygen, others methane, some needed no atmosphere at all. Each had their own translation device, their own seat designed for their unique biology, their own voting crystal that would glow when they made their choice. Today was different from other days. The chamber hummed with tension. Conversations happened in clusters, species grouping together based on old alliances and shared concerns. At the center of it all stood the council president, a being named Vorath, whose species had been traveling the stars for 50,000 years. His three eyes surveyed the assembly with something that might have been sadness. The issue on the table was humanity. Vorath raised one of his four arms. Silence fell immediately. The translation devices kicked in, carrying his words to every being present in their native language. We gather today to address a crisis that threatens the stability of our galactic community, Vorath said. His voice was calm but firm. The species known as humans from the planet Earth in the Sol system has become a problem that can no longer be ignored. A holographic display activated above the center of the chamber. It showed a small yellow star with 9 planets orbiting it. One planet was highlighted in blue and green, Earth. The display zoomed out, showing red dots spreading from that single system like a disease. Each red dot was a human colony or settlement. 312 years ago, humans achieved faster than light travel, Vorath continued. At that time, we welcomed them. We offered them membership in the galactic community. We shared our knowledge and our markets. We believed, as we always have, that diversity strengthens us all. The display changed. Now it showed graphs and numbers, population growth curves that shot upward like rockets, economic data showing human trade expanding exponentially, cultural influence metrics that painted an alarming picture. But humans are not like other species, Vorath said. They reproduce at an alarming rate. They adapt to any environment with frightening speed. They learn languages in months that take other species decades to master. They have spread to 200 star systems in just 3 centuries. At this rate, mathematical models predict humans will outnumber all other galactic species combined within 1,000 years. A representative from the Kavalesh rose to speak. The Kavalesh were insectoid beings who valued order above all else. Their delegates' wings buzzed with agitation. The problem goes beyond mere numbers, the Kavalesh said. Human culture is infectious. Their music plays on our worlds. Their stories dominate entertainment networks. Their fashion, their food, their art, it spreads like a virus. Young Kavalesh now question our traditional values because they have been exposed to human ideas about individual freedom. This is cultural contamination. Another delegate stood. This one was from the Metharian collective, beings of pure energy who existed in magnetic containment fields. Humans are dangerous in ways they themselves do not understand, the Metharian said. They form emotional bonds with other species effortlessly. They have no concept of proper boundaries. They fall in love with aliens. They adopt alien children. They cry at alien funerals. This emotional promiscuity breaks down the natural barriers that have kept galactic society stable for millennia. More delegates spoke. Each had their own complaint, their own fear, their own reason why humanity needed to be controlled. The Ravat worried about human military tactics. The Solan feared human genetic engineering. The Trelix complained about human disregard for bureaucratic procedures. On and on it went, a litany of concerns that all pointed to the same conclusion. Humans were too much, too fast, too adaptable, too friendly, too creative, too unpredictable. They did not fit into the careful order that the galaxy had maintained for thousands of years. Finally, Vorath raised his arm again. Silence returned. The evidence is clear, he said. If we do nothing, human expansion will destabilize everything we have built. Therefore, I propose the following resolution. Humanity shall be declared a quarantined species. All humans currently outside the Sol system must return to their home world within 10 standard years. No human shall be permitted to leave the Sol system for a period of no less than 500 years. Human communication with the wider galaxy shall be restricted to diplomatic channels only. Any human found outside the quarantine zone after the grace period will be detained and returned by force. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some delegates nodded in agreement. Others looked uncomfortable. A few tried to speak in humanity's defense. noting their contributions to science and art, their bravery in helping during the Trell Plague, their generosity in sharing Earth's biological resources. But these voices were drowned out by the majority who saw humans as a threat. The vote was called. Each delegate's crystal began to glow. Green for approval of the quarantine, red for rejection, amber for abstention. The results appeared on the central display. 793 green, 42 red, 12 amber. The resolution had passed by an overwhelming majority. The motion carries, Vorath announced. Humanity is hereby quarantined to the Sol system. Enforcement fleets will be dispatched immediately to ensure compliance. This council session is adjourned. The delegates began to file out, some satisfied, others troubled. But in the back of the chamber, a junior analyst named Kelrix remained seated. Kelrix belonged to the archival species, beings who lived for accurate data and precise records. Something about the vote bothered him. He pulled up his personal data tablet and began reviewing the evidence that had been presented. The population numbers, the expansion rates, the cultural influence studies, all of it looked correct on the surface. But Kelrix had a habit of checking timestamps and sources. His two hearts began to beat faster as he dug deeper into the data. The most recent confirmed human sighting in the database was 47 years old. The population surveys were 53 years out of date. The cultural influence studies had been conducted 61 years ago. The economic data was a patchwork of old reports, the newest being 42 years old. Everything the council had just voted on was based on historical data. No one had checked current conditions. No one had sent a survey ship to human space in nearly half a century. Kelrix stood up quickly, his tablet clutched in his manipulator appendages. He needed to find someone senior, someone who would listen, but as he looked around the emptying chamber, he felt a cold dread settle into his core. What had humanity been doing for the last 47 years? Across the galaxy, the enforcement fleets prepared to launch. Massive warships, some the size of small moons, powered up their engines. These vessels represented the combined military might of dozens of species. Their mission was clear. Locate all human colonies, round up all humans found outside Sol system, and enforce the quarantine. Admiral Kresh commanded the largest of these fleets. He was a veteran of the sector wars, a time when 3 civilizations had nearly destroyed each other before the Council intervened. Kresh did not like this mission. He had fought alongside human soldiers during the Trell Plague crisis. He knew humans were brave, clever, and loyal. But orders were orders. Prepare for jump to the Kepler sector, Kresh commanded. Intelligence reports indicate a major human colony there. Population estimated at 3 million. We will begin operations there. His fleet of 30 warships engaged their faster-than-light drives. Space twisted around them and they vanished from normal space. They emerged 3 days later at the edge of the Kepler sector. Sensors immediately began scanning for human settlements, human ships, human communications. The displays lit up with data. Sir, his sensor officer reported, I'm detecting multiple human installations, orbital stations, planetary settlements, mining operations. But what? Kresh demanded. There are no life signs, sir. The installations are all automated, running on their own, but there are no humans. Kresh felt a chill run down his spine. Check again. Expand the search radius. The fleet spent 2 days searching every corner of the Kepler sector. They found human buildings, human technology, human infrastructure. Everything was maintained, clean, and operational. Automated systems kept everything running smoothly. But there was not a single human to be found. It was as if 3 million people had simply vanished. Move to the next human colony, Kresh ordered, trying to keep the unease out of his voice. Perhaps they received warning and evacuated. But the next colony was the same, and the next, and the next. Across dozens of star systems, enforcement fleets found the same thing. Empty human settlements running on autopilot, completely abandoned. The reports began flooding back to the Council. Confusion turned to concern. Concern turned to alarm. In his small office on the Council station, Kelrix worked through the night, compiling every scrap of data he could find. He had managed to get his concerns heard by a senior Council investigator named Zixthar. Now both of them pored over records, looking for clues. "Here," Zixthar said, pointing at a series of reports. "Look at these incidents over the past 45 years. A human doctor who saved the life of a Trelix governor. A human engineer who solved an unsolvable problem on Metherian Prime. A human artist who won the Galactic Prize but never showed up to claim it. Dozens of similar stories." "What about them?" Kelrix asked. "The timing," Zixthar said. "They all happened after we stopped monitoring human space closely. And look at this. Follow-up attempts to locate these individuals all failed. They seemed to vanish after making their mark." Kelrix felt his blood run cold as understanding began to dawn. "You think?" "I think humanity knew this was coming," Zixthar said quietly. "I think they saw the writing on the wall decades ago, and I think they did something about it." Outside the window, stars glittered in the endless dark. Somewhere out there, humanity was hiding. But where? And how? And most frightening of all, what did it mean that the galaxy's most adaptable species had gone to ground? The Council had outlawed humanity. They had voted with certainty and conviction. But as Kelrix stared at his data and Zixthar made his calculations, both of them began to suspect the same terrible truth. They were too late. Whatever humanity had planned, whatever they had done, it was already over. The Council had not prevented anything. They had simply failed to notice until it was far, far too late. Admiral Kresh sat in his command chair, staring at reports that made no sense. 6 weeks had passed since the Council issued the quarantine order. His fleet had visited 43 human colonies. Every single one was empty. Not destroyed, not damaged, just empty. The lights still worked. The gardens grew in their automated greenhouses. Music still played in the town squares. But there were no people. "It's like they all decided to leave at the same time," his tactical officer said. "But our intelligence said there were millions of humans out here. Where did they go?" Kresh had no answer. He had sent messages to human government officials in the Sol system, demanding explanations. The responses were polite but unhelpful. Yes, humans had been returning home for decades. It was a personal choice. People wanted to see Earth before they got too old. Natural migration patterns, nothing to worry about. But Kresh was worried, very worried. His communication officer suddenly sat up straight. "Sir, we're receiving a priority message from Council headquarters. It's marked urgent. Put it through," Kresh ordered. Zixthar's face appeared on the screen. The Council investigator looked like he had not slept in days. "Admiral Kresh, I need you to divert to the nearest major population center immediately. Not a human colony, any major alien city. I need you to investigate something." Kresh frowned. "Investigate what?" "My orders are to locate and retrieve humans." "Your orders just changed," Zixthar said grimly. "Trust me, Admiral. Go to the nearest city. Look for humans. You'll understand when you see it." The transmission ended. Kresh sat back thinking. The nearest major population center was Velcor Station, a massive trade hub in the Antares region. It was home to 15 million beings from over 100 different species. He had stopped there many times during his military career. "Set course for Velcor Station," he ordered. 3 days later, his flagship docked at the station. Kresh took a small security team with him and made his way into the main commercial district. The station was as busy as ever. Merchants hawked their goods. Travelers rushed to catch shuttles. Children of a dozen species played in the recreational areas. Kresh walked slowly through the crowds, looking for anything unusual. His security team spread out, scanning for human biosigns. "Sir," one of his guards said over the comm, "I'm getting a reading. Human DNA signature, but it's faint, like it's being masked by something." Kresh moved toward the guard's position. They were standing outside a medical clinic. Through the window, Kresh could see a doctor treating a young Trelix child. The doctor wore the traditional robes of the Trelix people. Her skin had the characteristic blue-green color. Her facial structure was perfectly Trelix, but Kresh's guard scanner insisted she was human. Kresh walked into the clinic. The doctor, looked up and smiled, showing the sharp teeth typical of Trelix. "Can I help you, Admiral?" she asked in perfect Trelix language. "I hope so," Kresh said carefully. "My scanner says you're human, but my eyes say you're Trelix. Which is true?" For a moment, the doctor's smile faltered. Then she sighed deeply. She reached up and touched a small device behind her ear. The air around her shimmered. Suddenly, she was human. Her skin turned pale tan. Her sharp teeth became flat human teeth. Her body structure shifted slightly. The change was seamless. Perfect. Impossible. "My name is Dr. Sarah Martinez," she said in flawless galactic common. "I've been practicing medicine on this station for 19 years. I've saved countless lives. I've trained Trelix doctors. I've paid my taxes. I've been a good citizen." Kresh stared at her in shock. "You've been here for 19 years? Disguised?" "Not disguised," Sarah corrected gently. "I learned the language. I studied the culture. I earned my medical license under Trelix law. I wear a holographic projector because it makes my patients comfortable, but everything else about me is real. My skills are real. My dedication is real. My life here is real." "But why?" Kresh asked. Sarah looked at him with sad eyes. "Because I knew this day would come, Admiral. Humanity has always been too loud, too visible, too different. We knew eventually the galaxy would see us as a threat, so some of us made a different choice. We chose to become part of the galaxy in a way that couldn't be taken away." Before Kresh could respond, his comm unit erupted with messages from his security team. "Sir, we found another one. Human male, working as an engineer in the station's reactor core. Been here 22 years. Captain, there's a human teacher at the primary school. She's been educating Velcor's children for 15 years. Admiral, the merchant who sold me lunch yesterday just revealed himself as human. He's owned that restaurant for 2 decades. The reports kept coming. Dozens of humans, all revealed once they were scanned, all living normal lives on Velcor Station. All integrated into the community so thoroughly that no one had suspected them." Kresh felt dizzy. He made his way to the station administrator's office. The administrator, a Hravat named Torvis, looked confused and frightened. "I don't understand," Torvis said. "The doctor who treated my daughter's illness 3 years ago was human? The engineer who saved us from a reactor breach was human? My son's favorite teacher is human?" "It appears so," Kresh said. "What are you going to do?" Torvis asked. "Are you going to arrest them? These people are valuable members of our community. Dr. Martinez has a 98% patient survival rate. The engineer, Chen, he's a genius. The teacher, Ms. Okonkwo, she's won awards. You can't just take them away." Kresh had no answer. His orders were clear. All humans outside Sol System had to be returned. But how could he arrest people who had been productive citizens for decades? What crime had they committed? He returned to his ship and sent a detailed report to Zixthar. Then he waited. The response came 6 hours later. It was not just from Zixthar, it was from the council president himself. "Admiral Kresh," Vorath said, his 3 eyes filled with something that might have been horror. "Your report from Velcor Station is not unique. We have received similar reports from 637 different locations across the galaxy. Stations, planets, habitats everywhere. Humans have been living among us, integrated into our societies for decades." Vorath paused, collecting himself. "We are trying to calculate the scope. Conservative estimates suggest there may be as many as 50 million humans living outside human space, all disguised, all integrated, all hidden in plain sight." Kresh felt the bottom drop out of his world. 50 million. That was more than the total population of some council species. "What are your orders, Mr. President?" Kresh asked. "We don't know yet," Vorath admitted. "The council is in emergency session. Some delegates want immediate arrests. Others are arguing for amnesty. And the humans themselves. What about them? They're revealing themselves, Admiral, all across the galaxy. They're coming forward, identifying themselves, and then disappearing. We don't know where they're going. It's like they want us to know they're here, but they won't let us catch them." Kresh understood immediately. It was a message. Humanity was showing the galaxy exactly how thoroughly they had infiltrated. They were demonstrating their capability, and then vanishing before anyone could act against them. On the planet Kelthera 9, Professor Shen stood before her colleagues in the university's main auditorium. For 23 years, she had taught quantum physics here. She had published 40 papers. She had mentored hundreds of students. She was one of the most respected scientists on the planet. Now she stood at the podium, her holographic disguise deactivated, revealing her true human form. "I am sorry for the deception," she said to the shocked audience. "But I want you to know that everything I taught you was real. Every discovery we made together was genuine. My respect and affection for all of you is absolutely true. I came here not to spy, not to sabotage, but to learn and to contribute. And I hope I have done that." A Keltheran student in the front row stood up. His name was Veltix, and Shen had been his mentor for 4 years. "Professor, where will you go?" he asked, his voice breaking with emotion. Shen smiled sadly. "I don't know, but Veltix, you are ready to defend your dissertation. You don't need me anymore. You never really did. The knowledge is yours. What you do with it is up to you." She bowed to the assembly and then walked out of the auditorium. By the time security arrived to detain her, she had vanished completely. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. On the trading hub of Nexus Station, a merchant named Jackson revealed he had been human all along, then vanished from his successful business. In the military academy on Hravat Prime, a tactics instructor showed his true face to his students before disappearing. In art galleries, laboratories, factories, farms, government offices, everywhere, humans revealed themselves and then slipped away. Zixthar worked around the clock trying to track the pattern. He had a team of analysts now, all trying to understand what was happening. "It's coordinated," one analyst reported. "They're all revealing themselves within a narrow time window like they're following a plan." "But where are they going?" another analyst asked. "We have sensor nets throughout the galaxy. How are they disappearing so completely?" Zixthar had a theory, but it was so disturbing he almost did not want to voice it. "What if they're not going anywhere?" he said quietly. "What if they're just changing disguises? We found them once because we were looking for human biosigns. But what if they have better disguises now? What if the human doctor who revealed herself on Velcor Station is now working as a Matharian engineer on another station? What if they can become anyone?" The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "That's impossible," someone said. "The technology required would be exactly what humanity specializes in," Zixthar finished. "Adaptation. They don't conquer, they don't dominate, they become. They adapt so perfectly that they're indistinguishable from the native population." He pulled up a new set of data on the main screen. "Look at this. Over the past 50 years, there has been a dramatic increase in interspecies relationships. Humans marrying aliens, mixed species children, adoptions across species lines. At first, we thought it was just human promiscuity, their tendency to bond with anyone. But what if it was deliberate? What if they were ensuring their genetics would spread throughout the galaxy?" Another analyst, a young Kavalesh named Trix, pulled up additional data. "Sir, if the reports are accurate and there really are 50 million humans scattered across the galaxy, and even half of them have children with aliens, and those children have children." She trailed off, unable to finish the thought. Zixthar finished it for her. "Then within 3 generations, human DNA will be present in a significant percentage of the galactic population. You can't quarantine DNA, you can't arrest genetics. If a being is half human and half Trelix, which are they? Do we arrest them? Do we leave them alone?" The terrible truth was becoming clear. Humanity had not just infiltrated the galaxy. They had begun to merge with it. They were becoming part of the galactic gene pool itself. Back on Velcor Station, Dr. Sarah Martinez walked through the service tunnels, her holographic disguise reactivated. She looked like a maintenance worker now, someone no one would notice. She reached a hidden compartment and pulled out a small communication device. "This is Martinez," she said quietly. "Reveal complete. Moving to position 7 as planned. A voice responded, heavily encrypted. Confirmed. Status reports coming in from all sectors. The Council knows we're here now. Phase 2 is complete. Prepare for Phase 3. Sarah tucked the device away and continued walking. She thought about the faces of her patients, the people she had helped over 19 years. She had not been lying when she said her dedication was real. She loved this station, she loved its people, and she would protect them, even if they never knew it was her. Because that was the secret of humanity's plan. They were not invading. They were not conquering. They were becoming the invisible guardians, the hidden helpers, the silent contributors to every civilization they touched. And by the time anyone realized it, it would be far too late to stop them. The Council had outlawed humanity. But humanity was already inside the house. 52 years earlier, Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the colony ship Pioneer's Gambit and stared at a message that would change everything. The message came from Earth, from the Diplomatic Intelligence Division. It was marked with the highest security clearance. Sarah opened it with her personal encryption key. As she read, her hands began to shake. The message was a statistical analysis, a prediction model, a warning. Earth's best analysts had been studying galactic politics for decades. They had tracked voting patterns in the Council, monitored public sentiment across hundreds of worlds, analyzed cultural trends and economic shifts. The conclusion was clear and terrifying. Within 50 to 70 years, the Galactic Council would move to quarantine or eliminate humanity. The reasons were laid out in painful detail. Humans expanded too fast. They adapted too well. They made other species uncomfortable with their emotional openness and cultural flexibility. They did not fit into the careful order that ancient species had built over millennia. Eventually, fear would overcome tolerance. The Council would act. Sarah read the message 3 times, then deleted it. She called her senior officers to a private meeting. "We have a problem," she told them, "and we have maybe 50 years to solve it." Commander James Wright, her second-in-command, leaned forward. "What kind of problem?" "The kind where our entire species gets locked in a box and thrown away," Sarah said bluntly. "Earth's analysts think the Council will quarantine us, maybe worse." "That's insane," said Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the ship's chief scientist. "We've helped them. We've contributed. We've followed every rule." "Doesn't matter," Sarah said. "We're different. We're unpredictable. We scare them. And scared people do stupid things." Lieutenant Marcus Johnson, head of security, crossed his arms. "So what do we do? Go to war? We can't fight the entire galaxy." "No," Sarah said slowly, an idea forming in her mind. "We don't fight, we disappear." She pulled up a star map on the central display. It showed human colonies scattered across dozens of systems, small settlements, research outposts, trading stations. Millions of humans living away from Earth. "What if we weren't here?" Sarah asked. "What if when the Council comes looking they find empty colonies? What if humanity just vanishes?" "Where would we go?" Yuki asked. Sarah smiled, but there was no humor in it. "Everywhere. Nowhere. We become invisible." Over the next 6 months, Sarah developed what would become known as the Diaspora Protocol. It was ambitious, dangerous, and possibly insane. But the more she worked on it, the more convinced she became that it was humanity's only chance. The plan was simple in concept, complex in execution. Instead of concentrating in human colonies where they stood out, humans would scatter across the galaxy, integrating into alien societies. They would not conquer or dominate. They would become part of the existing civilizations, contributing members of alien communities. But to do that, they needed to look the part. Sarah contacted Dr. Elena Volkov, one of Earth's leading experts in holographic technology and genetic engineering. She explained the plan. Elena was quiet for a long time. "You're talking about creating technology that would let humans pass as aliens," Elena finally said. "Perfect mimicry, voice, appearance, mannerisms, everything." "Yes," Sarah confirmed. "That's not just hard, Sarah. That's decades of research, maybe longer." "We have about 50 years," Sarah said, and the survival of our species depends on it. Elena took the challenge. She assembled a team of the best minds in biology, holography, cybernetics, and anthropology. They worked in secret, funded by off-the-books military budgets and private donations from wealthy individuals who understood the stakes. The breakthrough came 12 years into the project, a combination of advanced holographic projection, genetic modification to alter pheromones and biosigns, and neural interfaces that could help humans learn alien languages and customs with incredible speed. The technology was not perfect, but it was good enough. They called it the integration suite. A human wearing the full suite could pass as almost any humanoid alien species. With training and dedication, they could live an entire lifetime in an alien society without being detected. Sarah began recruiting volunteers. She needed a specific type of person, not soldiers, though they needed courage, not spies, though they needed discretion. She needed people who genuinely wanted to be part of something larger than themselves, people who could love a culture that was not their own, people who could build real lives in alien worlds and mean it. The first volunteer was a doctor named Robert Martinez. He had spent years working in refugee camps on border worlds, treating aliens injured in conflicts. He spoke 4 alien languages fluently and had alien friends he considered family. "I want to help," Robert said simply when Sarah interviewed him. "If this can prevent war, if this can save lives, I'm in." The second volunteer was a teacher named Grace Okonkwo. She had been teaching human and alien children together at a mixed-species school on a frontier world. She believed in education as a bridge between cultures. "Children don't see differences the way adults do," Grace told Sarah. "I've watched human kids and alien kids become best friends, play together, learn together. If we can preserve that, if we can spread that, maybe we can change things." More volunteers came forward. Engineers who loved solving impossible problems. Artists who wanted to share beauty across species. Farmers who saw value in every form of life. Scientists who believed knowledge belonged to everyone. Merchants who understood that trade builds connections. Soldiers who preferred peace, but would protect what they loved. Sarah personally interviewed every single volunteer. She needed to make sure they understood what they were signing up for. "This is not a short-term assignment," she told each one. "You will be living as an alien for years, maybe decades, maybe for the rest of your life. You will make friends who never know your true identity. You might fall in love with someone who thinks you're a different species. You will have to lie every single day. Can you do that?" Some said no. Some thanked her and walked away. But enough said yes. The training took years. Volunteers learned alien languages until they could speak them in their sleep. They studied alien cultures, memorizing every detail of customs and traditions. They practiced walking, eating, and gesturing like aliens. They learned to think like aliens, to understand alien psychology and values. Robert Martinez spent 3 years studying Trelix culture before he felt ready. He learned their medical practices, their ethical frameworks, their religious beliefs. He practiced their formal greeting rituals 10,000 times until they felt natural. When he finally put on his integration suite and looked in the mirror, he saw a Trelix doctor looking back. "How do I look?" he asked Sarah. Sarah studied him carefully. His posture was perfect, his mannerisms flawless. If she had not known better, she would have sworn he was Trelix. "You look ready," she said. Robert was sent to Velcor Station with a full cover identity. He had credentials from a Trelix medical school, a work history that would check out if anyone investigated, even false family records on the Trelix homeworld. He was not Robert Martinez anymore. He was Dr. Kelmara, a Trelix physician seeking opportunity in the diverse environment of a major trade hub. He opened a small clinic. His first patient was a Hravat child with a respiratory infection. Robert treated her with a combination of Trelix medical techniques and his own human knowledge. The child recovered quickly. Her parents recommended him to their friends. Within 6 months, he had a thriving practice. More volunteers followed. Grace Okonkwo became teacher Selvara, a Kavalesh educator at a school on a mining colony. An engineer named David Chen became technician Morath, a Matharian specialist in reactor systems. An artist named Michel Dubois became painter Yixtal, a Solon whose abstract works started winning awards. They spread across the galaxy like seeds in the wind. They found positions in hospitals, schools, factories, government offices, research stations, farms, and businesses. They became part of the communities they joined. They made friends. They fell in love. They had children with alien partners, creating the first generation of human-alien hybrids. And they reported back to Sarah. She coordinated everything from the Pioneer's Gambit, which had been converted into a mobile command center. She tracked every volunteer, monitored their progress, and helped them when they faced difficulties. She also recruited more volunteers, trained them, and deployed them. 20 years into the program, Sarah had 15,000 humans living undercover across the galaxy. 30 years in, the number reached 42,000. 40 years in, she had almost 60,000 integrated humans, plus another 30,000 hybrid children who were both human and alien. She also began phase 2 of the plan. Quietly, she ordered the evacuation of official human colonies. People were told it was voluntary, a return to Earth movement. Some went willingly, tired of frontier life. Others were skeptical but complied. A few refused, but they were a minority. The colonies were not destroyed. Automated systems were left in place to maintain the infrastructure. Gardens still grew. Lights still turned on and off in regular patterns. To a casual observer, it would look like people still lived there. But the humans were gone, either returned to Earth or integrated into alien societies. Sarah knew the clock was ticking. Earth's analysts had been right. Reports from undercover humans working in council facilities confirmed that sentiment was turning against humanity. Voices calling for quarantine or worse were getting louder. 51 years after she first received that fateful message, Sarah recorded what would be her final transmission to Earth. She looked older now, tired, but her eyes were still sharp. "To whoever receives this," she said to the camera, "the diaspora protocol is complete. We have positioned our people throughout the galaxy. They are teachers, doctors, engineers, artists, farmers, soldiers, scientists. They are part of the fabric of galactic civilization now. When the Council makes their move, and they will find empty human colonies. They will think they won, but we will already be inside every civilization, every culture, every species. We don't conquer. We don't dominate. We belong. Everywhere." She paused, choosing her next words carefully. Some will call this infiltration. Some will call it invasion, but it's neither. It's integration. It's choosing to be part of something larger than ourselves. Our people out there are not pretending to care about their adopted homes. They genuinely care. They genuinely contribute. They genuinely belong. That's our strength. That's our survival. Sarah looked directly into the camera and her voice became fierce. The Council thinks they can control us by locking us in a box. They don't understand. You can't lock up an idea. You can't quarantine adaptation. You can't arrest belonging. We are already part of them. Our DNA is mixing with theirs. Our cultures are blending. Our children are hybrids. In 3 generations, you won't be able to separate human from alien because we will be one people." She smiled then, and it was genuine. "We have already won. The Council just doesn't know it yet." The transmission ended. Sarah deleted all records of the diaspora protocol from the ship's computers. Then she set the Pioneer's Gambit on a course for a distant nebula where it would never be found. She thought about all the volunteers she had sent out. Robert Martinez on Velcor Station, Grace Okonkwo teaching children on the mining colony, David Chen keeping reactors running, Michel Dubois creating beautiful art, 60,000 humans living alien lives, another 30,000 children who were bridges between species. They were heroes, every one of them, and most of them would never be recognized because the best success would be complete invisibility. Sarah hoped they understood what they had accomplished. They had saved humanity not through strength or conquest, but through adaptation and belonging. They had turned humanity's greatest weakness, their difference, into their greatest strength. The Council would quarantine humanity, but it would be like trying to hold back the ocean with a net. The water was already everywhere, flowing through every gap, impossible to contain. Sarah Chen allowed herself a moment of pride. Then she began her next mission, finding a place where she too could disappear into the galaxy, becoming one more hidden human protecting the species in the only way that mattered, by becoming everyone, by belonging everywhere. The Council chamber had never been so chaotic. For the first time in its 10,000-year history, Delegates were shouting at each other. Ancient protocols of civility had broken down. Security guards stood nervously at the exits, unsure if they would need to intervene. Vorath stood at the center of the storm, trying to restore order. His forearms waved frantically for silence. It took nearly 30 minutes before the assembly calmed enough for him to speak. "We must approach this rationally," Vorath said, though his 3 eyes showed his own fear. "We have confirmed that approximately 60,000 humans are living integrated into our societies. Another 35,000 hybrid children exist, part human and part other species. We need to decide what to do about this." "It's obvious. What we do," snarled Krevix, the delegate from the Hravat Dominion. "We arrest every single one of them. We charge them with infiltration, espionage, and illegal immigration. We make an example of them." "And charge them in which courts?" asked Talara, delegate from the Tralix Confederation. "Under which laws? Many of these humans have been citizens of our worlds for decades. They have legal residencies, they have work permits. Some have married our people. They have broken no laws that existed when they arrived." "They lied about their species," Krevix shot back. "That's fraud." "Is it?" Talara challenged. "Show me the law that requires someone to prove their genetic heritage to live on our worlds. We never had such a law because we never needed it. We trusted people to be who they said they were. The humans didn't break our laws. They found gaps we didn't know existed." The Kvalesh delegate buzzed angrily. "What about the cultural contamination? The human doctor on Velkor Station has been influencing Tralix medical practices for 19 years. That's an attack on cultural purity." "Actually," said a new voice, "I want to address that." Everyone turned. A Tralix male had stood up in the visitors' gallery. He was elderly, his blue-green skin marked with the darker patterns that indicated age and wisdom. "I am Governor Keltor of the Tralix Medical Council," he said. "Dr. Kelmara, who we now know was human Dr. Robert Martinez, saved my daughter's life 3 years ago. She had a rare genetic disorder that our doctors could not treat. Dr. Kelmara used a combination of traditional Tralix techniques and some new approaches. My daughter is healthy today because of him." Keltor looked around the chamber. "After he revealed himself, I had our medical board review all his cases, 19 years of patient records. His success rate was 98%, the highest on Velkor Station. He never experimented on patients. He never pushed human medicine on people who didn't want it. He simply combined the best of both approaches to save lives." "That's not the point," Krevix started to say, but Keltor cut him off. "That is exactly the point," Keltor said forcefully. "This human lived among us. He contributed to our society. He made us better. And now you want to arrest him for it? For what? For being too good at his job?" "The law must be upheld," Krevix insisted. "Then change the law," Keltor replied. "But don't punish people for helping us." The chamber erupted again. Some delegates supported Keltor's position. Others insisted that laws must be enforced regardless of consequences. The debate raged for hours. Zixathar sat in his observation post, watching it all with growing dread. He had been compiling data for weeks now, and the numbers were even worse than he first thought. He raised his hand, requesting permission to speak. Vorath, looking desperate for any kind of clarity, granted it immediately. Zixathar's image appeared on the central display. He looked exhausted. "I have been investigating the full scope of human integration," he said. "I need to share what I've found because it changes everything." He pulled up a star map. Red dots appeared across the galaxy, showing locations where humans had been confirmed. These are confirmed human locations, 637 worlds, stations, and habitats. But that's not the real story. The map changed. New data overlaid the red dots. These colored regions show economic zones that have been influenced by human activity. The green areas represent markets where humans have introduced new trading practices. Blue areas show educational systems where humans have contributed to teaching methods. Purple areas indicate scientific research that has human involvement. The map was almost entirely covered in colors. If we remove every confirmed human tomorrow, we don't just lose 60,000 individuals. We lose their contributions. On Velkor Station alone, Human engineers designed 30% of the current infrastructure. Human teachers educated 15% of the current generation. Human doctors treated thousands of patients who will need follow-up care. Zixthar pulled up more data, but the real problem is here. The display changed to show genetic mapping. Human-alien hybrid children now exist in significant numbers. Conservative estimates suggest 35,000 confirmed hybrids, but we believe the real number may be much higher. These children are citizens of their respective worlds. They have rights under our laws. They've done nothing wrong. What do we do with them? He let that question hang in the air. And it gets worse. These hybrid children are now having children of their own. Second-generation hybrids who are 3/4 alien and 1/4 human. Third-generation hybrids who are 7/8 alien. At what point do we stop calling them human? At what percentage of alien DNA do they become acceptable? A Solon delegate spoke up. You're saying we can't remove the humans without causing massive disruption. I'm saying it may already be impossible to separate human from alien, Zixthar said bluntly. They've woven themselves into the fabric of our civilization. Pulling them out would be like trying to remove threads from a tapestry. You'd destroy the whole thing. The chamber fell silent as delegates absorbed this information. On a dozen different worlds, the humans who had revealed themselves watched the council proceedings on public broadcasts. They knew their fate was being decided. Many had already said goodbye to friends and families preparing for arrest or deportation. Dr. Robert Martinez sat in a small apartment on Velcor Station. He had moved out of his normal home, not wanting to make trouble for his neighbors. His medical license had been suspended pending investigation. His life's work was in limbo. There was a knock on his door. He opened it carefully. Standing there was Governor Keltor and about 50 other Trelix, including many of his former patients. We're not letting them take you, Keltor said simply. You saved my daughter. You saved all our relatives. You're one of us, no matter what your DNA says. Robert felt tears welling up. I appreciate that, but I don't want to cause trouble. Too late, said one of his former patients, a young Trelix woman whose life he had saved during a difficult surgery. We already filed a petition with the council. 5,000 signatures from Velcor Station residents. We're demanding they leave you alone. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. On the mining colony where Grace Okonkwo had taught for 15 years, her students and their parents formed a protective circle around her home. On the station where David Chen had worked, his fellow engineers went on strike, refusing to work until he was cleared. Michel Dubois' art was displayed in museums, and the directors issued statements saying they would not remove her works. The humans had allies now, not because people were afraid of humanity, but because individual humans had earned love and respect. But not everyone felt that way. On the Hravat homeworld, xenophobic groups began organizing. They saw the human integration as an invasion, a violation of their culture. Similar movements emerged on other worlds. Protests turned into riots in some places. The galaxy was tearing itself apart over a question that had no easy answer. What do you do when the enemy has become your neighbor? When the threat has become your friend? When the alien has become your family? Economic chaos followed the political turmoil. Businesses that depended on human workers faced closure. Hospitals that employed human doctors had to cancel procedures. Schools lost their best teachers. The stock market crashed on 3 different worlds as investors panicked. Vorath received reports of the spreading chaos and felt the weight of his 10,000 years of experience pressing down on him. He had lived through wars, plagues, and natural disasters, but he had never seen anything like this. The galaxy was facing a crisis that could not be solved by force or diplomacy because the problem was not external. It was internal. It was woven into their very societies. He called a private meeting with the senior delegates, the ones who had served longest and seen the most. They gathered in a secure chamber, away from the chaos of the main assembly. We need to be honest with ourselves, Vorath said. The quarantine has failed. It failed before we even announced it. Humanity predicted our actions and prepared for them. We cannot arrest 60,000 people who have broken no laws. We cannot punish hybrid children for existing. We cannot remove humans from our economy without causing collapse. So what do we do? The Matharian elder spoke, his energy field pulsing with thought. We could offer amnesty. Allow the integrated humans to stay where they are, but prevent new human immigration. That won't work, said the Tralix representative. If we allow some humans to stay, we're admitting the quarantine was wrong. If the quarantine was wrong, we have no legal basis to prevent more humans from coming. And if more humans come, we're back where we started. Perhaps we never should have tried to control them, said an elderly archival. Perhaps the real mistake was thinking we could quarantine an idea, because that's what humanity has proven themselves to be. Not a species, but an idea. The idea that anyone can belong anywhere if they work hard enough. A dangerous idea, muttered the Hrvat delegate. Dangerous to what? The archival challenged. Dangerous to our comfortable certainties? Dangerous to our careful order? Yes, but dangerous to our survival? I don't think so. I think the humans have made us stronger, not weaker. They've filled gaps we didn't know existed. They've brought fresh perspectives. They've connected us in new ways. Vorath listened to the debate and felt something shift in his understanding. For 10,000 years, the Council had maintained order by controlling change, by keeping species separate and predictable, but humanity had proven that change was inevitable. The question was not how to stop it, but how to manage it. We need to talk to them, Vorath said suddenly. Not as criminals, not as threats. We need to talk to humanity as equals and understand what they really want. They'll never agree to meet with us, the Hrvat delegate said. They're in hiding. Then we make them an offer they can't refuse, Vorath said. We offer to discuss amnesty, legal status, integration protocols. We admit that our approach was wrong and ask them to help us find a better way. You want to negotiate with infiltrators? Krevik said, shocked. I want to prevent a civil war, Vorath replied. Because that's what will happen if we try to force this. Half the galaxy will side with the humans. Half will oppose them. We'll tear ourselves apart. Is that what you want? The chamber fell silent. No one wanted war. They had all seen what war cost. Set up the meeting, Vorath ordered. Contact whatever human representatives we can find. Tell them we want to talk. Not to threaten, not to arrest, but to understand. Maybe it's too late to control this situation, but maybe we can still shape what comes next. As the delegates left to arrange the meeting, Vorath looked at the star map on his display. Humanity had spread across it like drops of ink in water. Impossible to contain, impossible to remove. They were part of the galaxy now, whether the Council liked it or not. The only question was what kind of galaxy they would all live in after this was over. The meeting was arranged on neutral ground, a small asteroid station in unclaimed space. No weapons were allowed. No military vessels within 10 light years. Just representatives talking face to face. Vorath arrived with a small delegation. Zixthar accompanied him, along with Talara from the Tralix Confederation and a few other moderate delegates. They waited in a simple meeting room, furnished only with a table and chairs adapted for various anatomies. Do you think they'll come? Talara asked nervously. They'll come, Zixthar said. They've been waiting for this moment. They planned for it. The door opened. 3 humans entered, and they were not what Vorath expected. The first was an elderly woman with gray hair and kind eyes. She wore simple clothes and walked with a slight limp. The second was a middle-aged man with dark skin and calloused hands that spoke of physical labor. The third was a young woman barely into adulthood with bright eyes and an earnest expression. No soldiers. No politicians in expensive suits. No intimidating presence. Just ordinary people. The elderly woman extended her hand in the human greeting gesture. Vorath awkwardly mirrored the action and they shook hands. I'm Dr. Sarah Martinez, she said. I was a physician on Velcor Station for 19 years. This is James Okafor, who is a farmer on the Trelix colony world Kelshanar, and this is young Elena Chen, who is half human and half Matherian. They sat down at the table. For a moment no one spoke. Vorath studied the humans carefully. He had expected defiance or fear. Instead, he saw calm patience. Thank you for agreeing to meet, Vorath finally said. I'll be direct. We need to understand what humanity wants. Your integration into our societies, was it an invasion? A plan to take over? Sarah smiled sadly. No, it was survival. We knew you would fear us eventually. We're too different, too adaptable, too fast-growing. History is full of examples of how powerful groups treat those they fear. We had a choice, fight, flee, or find another way. So you infiltrated us, Zixthar said, not accusingly, but seeking understanding. We integrated, James corrected gently. There's a difference. Infiltration implies we intended harm. Integration means we wanted to belong. I didn't pretend to love my farm on Kelshanar. I genuinely loved it. I spent 20 years growing food that fed thousands of Trelix families. That wasn't a disguise. That was my life. Elena spoke up, her voice young but steady. I was born on a Metharian station. My father was human, my mother Metharian. I grew up speaking both languages, celebrating both cultures. I'm not human trying to pretend to be Metharian. I'm both. I exist in the space between. What am I supposed to be in your quarantine? Where do I belong? Vorath felt the weight of her question. We didn't consider people like you when we made the decision. We should have. You couldn't have, Elena said, because we didn't exist yet. My parents met because my father was living as a Metharian engineer. They fell in love not knowing they were different species. By the time my father revealed the truth, my mother was already pregnant with me. She had to choose between the man she loved and the rules of her society. She chose love. How many others are there like you? Talara asked softly. Thousands, Sarah said, and more being born every year. We have second-generation hybrids now. Third generation. At what point do they stop being human? Elena is 50% human. Her children, if she has them with a Metharian partner, will be 25% human. Her grandchildren will be 12.5%. When do they become acceptably alien? The question hung in the air. No one had an answer. I want to understand something, Vorath said. You clearly planned this. The integration, the timing, the reveals. This was coordinated. Why reveal yourselves at all? You could have stayed hidden forever. Sarah nodded. We could have, but that would defeat the purpose. We didn't integrate to hide from you. We integrated to show you something important. We wanted you to see that we could live among you, contribute to your societies, earn your trust, and only then reveal ourselves. We wanted you to judge us by our actions, not our biology. It was a gamble, James added. We knew revealing ourselves would cause chaos, but we also knew that if you discovered us by accident, you'd see it as betrayal. This way we controlled the narrative. We showed you that the doctor who saved your daughter was human. The teacher who educated your children was human. The engineer who kept your station running was human. We wanted you to understand that human and enemy are not the same thing. Zixthar leaned forward. But you must have known we'd see it as manipulation. That some would call it an invasion. Yes, Sarah admitted. We knew, but consider the alternative. If we had stayed in our colonies, growing in numbers, becoming more visible, eventually you would have seen us as a threat anyway. At least this way, when you finally decided to act against us, we were already part of your societies. We had already proven our value. We had already formed connections that couldn't easily be broken. You made yourselves impossible to remove, Vorath said. We made ourselves part of you, Sarah corrected. There's a difference. Parasites are impossible to remove but provide no benefit. We provide benefit. We contribute. We make your society stronger. That's not parasitism. That's symbiosis, Elena spoke again. Can I ask you something, Council President? What were you afraid of, really? Vorath considered the question carefully. Change, he admitted. The galaxy has been stable for millennia. Species occupy their niches. Everyone knows their place. Then humans arrived and suddenly everything was in flux. You didn't respect the boundaries we'd established. You didn't stay in your lane. You touched everything, changed everything. It was chaos, but was it bad chaos? Elena asked. My mother tells me that before my father came to her station, the reactors were inefficient. He used a combination of human and Metharian techniques to improve them by 30%. Yes, he changed things, but he made them better. Not everyone agrees that your changes made things better, Zixthar pointed out. Some cultures feel you've contaminated them. Diluted their uniqueness, James nodded. I understand that fear. But culture isn't a fixed thing. It's always evolving, always adapting. When I farmed on Kelshanar, I used Trelix farming methods combined with crop rotation techniques from Earth. Some traditional Trelix farmers said I was destroying their culture. But when my methods produced 30% more food during a drought, and I shared those techniques freely, even the traditionalists started adopting them. Culture isn't diluted by new ideas. It's enriched. Unless you don't want it to change, Talara said quietly. Then it dies anyway, Sarah said bluntly. Culture that refuses to adapt becomes a museum piece. It might be preserved, but it's no longer living. We didn't force anyone to adopt human ideas. We simply lived our lives, and people chose to learn from us just as we learned from them. Vorath sat back. processing everything. "What do you want from us? What's your goal?" Sarah looked at her companions before answering. "We want to be part of the galactic community. Openly, legally, without hiding. We want our children to be recognized as citizens wherever they were born. We want humans who have lived peacefully on your worlds for decades to be granted residency or citizenship. We want the same rights and responsibilities as any other species." "And in return?" Vorath asked. "We'll share everything," James said. "Our technology, our knowledge, our culture. No more secrets, no more hidden integration programs. Everything open and transparent. We'll also help you manage what comes next," Sarah added. "Because whether you accept us or not, change is coming. The galaxy cannot go back to what it was. Too many connections have been made. Too many hybrids have been born. Too many minds have been exposed to new ideas. We can help you navigate that change peacefully, or you can fight it and watch everything fall apart. Your choice. It was not a threat. It was simply a statement of fact, delivered with neither malice nor satisfaction." Vorath looked at his fellow delegates. He saw the same realization in their eyes that he felt in his hearts. The Council had already lost, not because humanity had defeated them, but because humanity had made the concept of defeat irrelevant. There was no war to win. There was only acceptance or chaos. "I need to bring this back to the full Council," Vorath said. "They'll need to vote on any agreement." "We understand," Sarah said. "Take all the time you need. We've waited 50 years. We can wait a little longer." The meeting ended. As the humans prepared to leave, Elena approached Vorath privately. "Council President, can I tell you something my mother taught me?" Vorath nodded. "She said that the strongest materials aren't the ones that never bend. They're the ones that can bend without breaking. She said societies are the same. The ones that survive aren't the ones that resist all change. They're the ones that can adapt while keeping their core values intact. She said humans didn't come to break the galaxy. They came to help it bend." She smiled at him. This child who is both human and alien, neither and both. "Thank you for listening," Elena said, and then she was gone. The council debate lasted for 6 weeks. Every angle was examined, every concern addressed, every fear voiced. In the end, the vote was closer than the quarantine had been, but the result was clear. The quarantine was rescinded. Human integration would be legalized under strict guidelines. Humans who had lived peacefully on alien worlds for more than 10 years could apply for permanent residency. Hybrid children were granted full citizenship rights. New immigration would be allowed but monitored. It was not everything humanity wanted, but it was enough. On Velcor Station, Dr. Robert Martinez received official notification that his medical license was restored. He stood in his small apartment staring at the document, tears streaming down his face. There was a knock on his door. He opened it to find Governor Keltor standing there with his daughter, fully recovered and healthy. "Welcome home, Doctor," Keltor said. "And I do mean home. You're one of us now. Officially." On Kelshanar, James Okafor walked through his fields, feeling the soil between his fingers. His Tralix neighbors waved to him as they passed. One stopped to ask his advice about crop disease. James smiled and shared what he knew, just as he had done for 20 years. On the Matharian station, Elena Chen attended school with her friends, both Matharian and human and various combinations thereof. Her teacher announced that the school would now officially offer courses in human culture and language. The students cheered. In the council chamber, Vorath stood before the assembly and made an announcement. "Today marks a new chapter in galactic history. We have chosen adaptation over resistance, inclusion over exclusion. It will not be easy. There will be problems, conflicts, misunderstandings, but we have chosen to face those challenges together rather than tear ourselves apart fighting them." He paused, then added, "And if I am honest, humanity has taught us something important. They've shown us that strength isn't about maintaining perfect order. It's about adapting to chaos. They've proven that the most successful strategy isn't conquering or defending, it's belonging." Somewhere in deep space, on a small ship heading toward an unknown destination, Captain Sarah Chen received the news of the Council's decision. She was old now, worn down by years of stress and sacrifice, but she smiled. "We did it," she whispered to herself. "We actually did it." Her second-in-command, Commander Wright, now elderly himself, sat beside her. "What will you do now?" he asked. Sarah thought about it. "I think I'll find a nice planet somewhere. Maybe open a small clinic, practice medicine again. But this time I'll do it as myself. No disguises. Just Dr. Sarah Chen, human citizen of the galaxy. That sounds nice, Wright said. It does, doesn't it? Years later, a young child of mixed heritage asked her human parent a simple question. They were sitting in a park on a Tralix colony world, watching children of a dozen different species play together. Parent, did we win? The child asked. When the council tried to stop humans, did we win? The parent smiled and pulled the child close. There was never a war, sweetheart. Wars are about defeating enemies. We didn't defeat anyone. We just came home. The child looked confused, but we were already home. Exactly, the parent said. That's what we had to teach the galaxy. Home isn't just the planet you were born on. Home is anywhere you belong, and we belong everywhere. The child seemed to accept this and ran off to play with friends. The parent watched, seeing human children and alien children playing together without any awareness of difference. It was the most beautiful thing they had ever seen. The galaxy had changed. Humanity had changed it simply by refusing to be separate, by insisting on connection, by choosing belonging over isolation. It had not been easy. It had required sacrifice, patience, and courage. But in the end, humanity had not conquered the stars. They had not subjugated alien species or built an empire. They had done something much more powerful and much more permanent. They had become family, and family once formed could never truly be broken.